I get clients all the time coming to me and saying that they don't want to produce content and they don't feel ready and they don't want to go ahead and post on LinkedIn or write a blog post or post on YouTube because they're really, really concerned that they would be saying something that's already been said. And when I address this in my coaching calls that I take on this channel, I explain that that is a misconception about why people consume content in the first place. If this is something that you're thinking and that's giving you pause and making you sit on a lot of the amazing, amazing information that you have as a subject matter expert, then a great way to think about this is consider yourself less of an information provider and more as a relatable guide. When you think about yourself as a relatable guide, you take away the pressure that your value that you're putting out there comes solely from your information. And when you think that your value is solely from information, you therefore feel less qualified than the polished guru. And as experts, we know that that is completely untrue. If anything, we're more qualified because we focus so long on our craft. And so when you think about this, think about the fact that the people who are listening to you aren't just consuming information. Sometimes they want to just be able to relate to what you're saying. Sometimes they want to look at you and say, oh my gosh, I can say that too. Like I was on the treadmill this morning and I was listening to this content. I'm going to say guru, but I know that this creator doesn't consider herself a guru because she doesn't feel like she's made it yet. But I was listening to her and she was just going on and on and on about the simplest stuff and just updating us on her life and her business and all the behind the scenes. And it really wasn't really in-depth information, but the way she was presenting it was super relatable. She was sitting there in a Nike sweatshirt in a gorgeous office and talking about the news. And it wasn't anything I hadn't heard before, but I just felt like I was sitting with a good friend. And so when you think about a top expert in your field, sometimes they come across to the client as detached, clinical, and ultimately untouchable. And sometimes people that want to pay the guru are sitting there thinking, man, I couldn't possibly afford this guru. And sometimes, let's be real, the guru has such a big ego that their price is absolutely outrageous, even if they're doing the exact same thing you and I are doing. And so the audience that's listening to you doesn't want a lecture from a mountaintop. Sometimes they just want guidance from someone that's a few steps ahead of them. And so all that being said, what you said has value. What you have to say has value. What you need to say has value. And you owe it to yourself to be able to come out and say it. And that is an absolute transformation that when I'm in a coaching call, a lot of my clients walk away with. They're like, I didn't think about it that way. Another great shift, and again, I talk about this a lot in coaching calls, is to really shift your mindset from polish to presence. And what do I mean by that? I think sometimes it's easy to look at YouTube and look at all these big channels and think that you must have this flawless articulation and this high-end lighting and these perfect thumbnails and these perfect titles in a slick studio with a video editor to come across positively and be taken seriously. But your clients and the people that will hire you and who need to hear that, they can look past that. They're more mature than that. They're wanting an actual solution to their problem. And you, inside, you have that. And so you owe it to yourself to put it out there. If anything, I do believe that high production value can actually create a massive wall between you and the viewer. The room that you're sitting in, like my background, right? This is what it is. I put a lot of effort into it, but I know it's not what it could be. It's not what other people do, but it signals that I am a real world person in the process of building. And the person I identify with has a real business and a real need and is a fellow expert like myself who's trying to do the same thing. And so if I took myself and put myself on a pedestal, I wouldn't be doing myself or my viewer any favors. And so for you, I encourage you, come as you are, because that's who people are hiring. And if anything, if you come as you are, you're going to get way, way more alignment in your clients than if you try to put up this pretense and you get on the camera and you're like, oh, I don't, you're trying to be something you're not. That's not how this works. One of my close friends said, I just come on camera to make the barrier low, and I didn't want to give someone a jump scare when they saw me. And I thought it was a hilarious way to say it, but there's so much truth to it. And another thing that you can think about is shifting from novelty to resonance. I think oftentimes when we come to make content, we feel like, we're being redundant or we're just putting noise into the air because the same core advice lives elsewhere. And you have to think about it this way. Information is a complete commodity at this point. Everyone is blabbing and yapping and talking at the internet. I mean, we're in an information overload, especially with AI. But your perspective is what makes it unique, the lens at which you look at things. So again, if we take my Google Ads business, I come to the table with a protective stance, with a protective lens. I want to protect the business owner from every experience that I've had working inside of agencies, from what I know happens in the industry, from what I know from the inside of the industry. That is the perspective that I bring to the table. I also bring to the table that I understand how they feel. The typical client that I deal with is confused. They don't even know where to turn. They think their ads are just broken. So again, that's where I come to the clients from. It's not necessarily that the information that I say is unique, right? So I could talk about the technical details. That is a commodity, but I'm coming from it from a place of protection and getting them to not be confused anymore. And so the exact same truth formatted in 5 different ways is going to come across differently based on your worldview. And it's the analogies you use and the personal stories that you have and the struggles and things that you've overcome that you're bringing to the table to help paint that picture. It's not just broad strokes, it's all in the details. So like, we're going to go back and look at this channel, for example, right? Like, I am an extremely small channel. I have the history of having made content on this channel for over 6 years. I started out talking about balanced life. It was back when I was staying home for a little bit. I was substitute teaching. I privated all those videos. I then got into the internet and culture niche for a while. And then I abandoned it again. And then I got into my freelancing journey and I paused for a little while longer. And then I came back to the channel having successfully built an amazing business on the Google Ads side. And I came to it from a perspective of contents and having been there and done that and experienced content as a through line at every single point in my life. That is what makes me different. I can successfully say, okay, I built a massive following with LuLaRoe, paid off an entire patio and paid for that all in cash and took my family on vacation in basically a network marketing framework, right? I use content in a network marketing capacity, selling leggings and shirts online, and was wildly successful doing that. I have then substitute taught, in which case I just talked about my life and how I got up early and worked out. I talked about cooking. I talked about cleaning. I had that type of channel. And then I slowly, as my business grew, transformed it into a marketing channel. That is really unique to me. But that through line has been content, always in the background, always part of my life, always working for me. That is the perspective I bring to the table. I also have a unique ability to relate to other experts because I know how hard it is for subject matter experts to face the camera and to not constantly push themselves down to other people and then therefore feel like they're not doing as well. Like, I can deeply relate to that because I grew up in a knowledge-based field. And so again, more of it I bring to the table. So it doesn't make the tips that I gave today any less valuable. It makes them more valuable because I'm coming to the user with all that context. So when I say be relatable, I'm as relatable as it gets, especially to my ideal audience. I mean, I'm literally sitting here with you with no makeup on, a t-shirt, fresh back from the dentist, making the video that was on my mind today. And I'm saying stuff that hopefully resonates with the right people. And so I personally am a living, breathing example of what this looks like. And so what I would tell you, if you were in a coaching call with me, or if you were sitting in front of me and we were just chatting, I would tell you that you are absolutely not in competition with who has the latest facts. What you're doing by showing up in whatever form of content you want, whether that be LinkedIn, blogging, YouTube, whatever form of content you feel the most comfortable in, you are offering a specific voice, a specific environment, and a story that supports those facts, and you're making that information usable to someone who's been turned off by everyone else. So the biggest thing I would encourage you to do is to take a deep breath and know that your voice matters, and know that you have important things to say, and then have the courage to do that. All that I hope for in this video is that I gave someone, some expert who's sitting on their hands, wanting their business to just take off because they have the courage to make the content. My hope is that I gave you that courage today. I am a living, breathing example of someone with the world's smallest freaking channel who has made at least $7,000 off my YouTube channel, which to me is absolutely shocking. And that's only the $7,000 that I know about, because I finally started having the courage to ask people how they had heard about me. So in any case, I hope that helps today. I hope it helps give context. I hope it gives courage to anyone else who's out there struggling, because you know what? You deserve a piece of the pie, and you yourself can become that magnetic creator that I certainly feel like I am today. If anything, I just look at my business and I couldn't be more proud of where I am today. Hope this video helps. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the comments.